breaking news today.
Please subscribe and check notification box to get all breaking news alerts.
Alabama Republican Senatorial hopeful Roy Moore is keeping the dream alive for supporters in the hotly contested Alabama Senate race against Democrat Doug Jones. Moore told his base the battle is not over despite President Donald Trump and others calling on him to concede. Moore lost to Jones on Tuesday night by some 20,000 votes, 650,436 votes, or 48%, to 671,151, or 50%. Moore is not ruling out asking for a recount in his failed bid for the U.S. Senate though, but that does not mean it will happen or even be allowed in this instance. Moore sent a fundraising email to supporters asking for contributions to his election integrity fund so he could investigate reports of voter fraud, telling supporters, "I also wanted to let you know that this battle is not over." On Tuesday, Jones was announced as victorious by about 20,000 votes, or 1.5% according to unofficial returns. But Moore has not yet conceded a heated Alabama race to fill the seat that previously belonged to U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Moore has refused to concede the race to Jones, saying he will wait until all provisional and military ballots are counted and the race is certified. Moore told supporters that the race was close and some military and provisional ballots had yet to be counted. Those are expected to be counted next week. Moore has also said his campaign is collecting numerous reported cases of voter fraud to send to the Secretary of State's office. Moore told supporters Tuesday night, "Realize when the vote is this close, it's not over and we still got to go by the rules about this recount provision. It's not over, and it's going to take some time." Alabama Secretary of State John Merrill says it is unlikely that the last-minute ballots will change the outcome of the election or even trigger a recount. The margin must be under 0.5% in order to trigger an automatic recount, and in this instance, the state would pay for it roughly to the tune of a cool $1 million in taxpayer money. The results of Alabama's Senate race will be certified between December 26 and January 3 after counties report their official totals. Merrill stated, "I know a lot of people would say it's never over until it's over, but the margin of victory for Doug Jones at this particular time looks like a very difficult amount of votes to overcome as the remaining votes that are out there to be counted next week begin to be considered at the local level." Merrill has also stated his office has investigated reports of voting irregularities, but have not discovered any that have been proven factual in nature. President Trump has endorsed Jones' win, calling to congratulate him as well as calling on Moore to concede the race. If Jones' margin of victory ends up being more than 0.5%, then things get a little dicier for a recount option. According to al.com, Alabama's election handbook spells out several offices that are not included in state laws for contesting elections: lieutenant governor, U.S. senator, and U.S. representative. There are other provisions, however, that indicate a candidate or political party could request recount. Who might challenge Doug Jones in 2020? "It's our contention the votes can be recounted," John Bennett, Deputy Chief of Staff for the Secretary of State's office told al.com. "We contend that authority is there." Bennett said, however, that the office will not make a determination on a recount until after the ballots are certified. "We're not at that point," he said. If Moore is allowed to request a recount, it will be at his expense and that could be considerable. Merrill told Fortune the cost of recount would be between $1 million and $1.5 million and the total amount must be put up when the request is made. Moore's most recent financial reports showed he had about $636,000 cash on hand. It's also unlikely the Alabama Republican Party, which backed Moore even after the national GOP temporarily suspended its support, would be willing to help fund the recount. Alabama Republican Party Chairman Terry Lathan issued a statement after Jones' win saying the race is over. "While we are deeply disappointed in the extremely close U.S. Senate election results, With our candidate Judge Roy Moore, we respect the voting process given to us by our founding fathers, Latham said. However, it is important to note that Merrill and others are missing that there were some rather significant irregularities in the Jones-Moore senatorial election in Alabama, as just even a cursory search of the internet reveals. According to mainstream left-leaning Newsweek, thousands of felons registered to vote in this senatorial election. Thousands of felons may have registered to vote in the weeks leading up to the Alabama Senate election on Tuesday, in which Democrat Doug Jones pulled off a surprise victory. Pastor Kenneth Glasgow, who spearheaded the effort, said on the November 27 registration deadline that at least 5,000 to 10,000 people statewide had registered that month. "I've got people all over the state registering people," Glasgow, who is president of the Ordinary People's Society, TOPS, advocacy group, told Al.com at the time. "With my TOPS branches in Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Montgomery, Enterprise, Dothan, Abbeville, Geneva, Gordon, Bessemer, we have a lot." But according to Merrill, that's not worth noting. Then there was the 11th-hour court order that gave election officials the green light to not preserve electronic ballot records, which would form the basis for any recount effort in the first place. According to the left-leaning Guardian a court in Montgomery, the state capital, issued an injunction on Monday afternoon ordering election officials around the state to preserve digital images of the ballots cast by Alabama voters in the hard-fought contest between controversial Republican Roy Moore and Democrat Doug Jones. But the Supreme Court stayed that injunction almost immediately following a protest lodged by Alabama's chief election official, the Secretary of State, John Merrill. Voting rights experts denounced the ruling as a blow to transparency in a state that already has a flawed vote recount procedure and a somewhat checkered history of questionable election outcomes that the state's senior officials and courts have allowed to go unchallenged. "There's no legitimate reason not to preserve ballot images," said Christopher Sauter, a veteran Washington election lawyer who helped the plaintiffs in the case. "It's neither expensive nor inconvenient. It amounts to flipping a switch." Then there was the enthusiastic volunteer that announced to one and all that people came from all over the country to Alabama to vote for Jones. "It certainly seems like there is more than ample evidence of potential skewing of election results, especially in light of the disproven 40-year-old allegations of sexual impropriety levied against Moore just 30 days before Election Day." He himself had been in the public eye for more than 40 years with no hint of such allegations. Yet all of a sudden here they come standing beside Gloria Allred. One victim was traced directly to the Democratic Party, another was called out by her own stepson, one has an axe to grind due to Moore representing her mother in a contentious child custody case, and yet a third admitted to forging Moore's signature in her yearbook. "This whole thing smells to me. What do you think? Does this whole thing sound fishy to you? Does Alabama need a recount? Sound off in the comments and let us know what you think. Follow us on Facebook at Freedom Daily.